And you're going to come in?
Long lay the world in sin and error binding, till he appeared, and the soul felt his word. A thrill of hope.
Welcome back to Dateline New Haven on WNHH, your home for community radio at 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. John Velleca always makes New Haven tick. He's a former city assistant police chief. He's the current sergeant-at-arms for the state senate. You might have noticed that his team, the Democrats, won big.
Yes, we did.
We're not going to talk about whether there's a connection to that or not. And he's the resident criminal justice expert here at WNHH. John's here to help us make sense of the latest Michigas involving that topic in New Haven. Welcome back, John. Thanks for coming in. It's been a while.
Always a pleasure, Paul.
And I think any minute now, Harry Drost, the WNHH station manager and President Donald Trump devotee, is going to be joining
President
us.
Republican.
Yeah. So we'll deal with that. But in the meantime, John, did you see a video I had on Facebook?
Right.
Where I'm going to ask you to get close to the mic. So what happened was the other day I was walking back from press conference, a Ned Lamont press conference actually at Gateway.
Yeah.
It's about 11:30 in the morning, and I'm going by 55 Church Street, which is near the Dunkin' Donuts at Crown, and I'm Center Street between Center and Crown, and they got a nice bus shelter there. It's heated, all modern, so it's kind of nice. So it's an area where a lot of druggies hang out. So a lot of people hang out in that bus shelter and sell and use drugs.
Right.
So it's been controversial. People, the store owners say, get them out of here. People say, people want to wait for the bus. So police got to deal with this classic broken windows, quality of life issue. Not an easy issue to deal with. So I'm walking through, and I'm right there in the throng with like 20 people there. And these two officers start riding their bikes right through us in figure eights. They weren't being jerks. They weren't being mean to people, but they were, just riding their bikes right through everybody in a figure eight to kind of break everybody up.
Right.
And then this one officer, Jeremy Elliott, starts calling out an announcement. So I listen. He says, you're not allowed to stand here unless you're waiting for a bus.
Right.
This is a federal building, which actually is a lie. It's not a federal building.
I'm sure that doesn't do anything, but go ahead.
We're going to check IDs if you don't leave.
Okay.
So then they go back to figure eights. I go up to him and say, hey, am I allowed to stand here? Because I'm not waiting for a bus. He goes, you can do whatever you want. I said, but you just said that people can't stand here. He said, you heard what you heard. He wouldn't talk. And
right.
What do you think about what he was doing?
Well, are you asking me if you can stand there or if you can't? I mean, it's the answer to the question is yes and no. Is he right? So you're not dealing with any. You're not dealing with any state. I watched the video a couple of times. You're not dealing with any state, any statute. I mean, it's not disorderly conduct. It's not breach of peace. It's not. It is. It falls under our ordinances, right? So you have two ordinances that may apply: 1871 and 1807. 1871 is the loitering in a drug zone. That could apply, but you have to. There's certain criteria you have to meet there. There's four areas that you have to meet.
Is that a state statute?
No, that's a New Haven City Ordinance, 18-7.1. You have to. People have to be stopping vehicular traffic. They have to be impeding pedestrians. They have to be engaged in hand-to-hand transactions. So none of that meets, even though this is a drug. The shelter is known for drugs. But we would have to do some surveillance and kind of firm that up before we moved in on that. However, 18.7 is just the strict loitering statute, which says any public area controlled by the city, 3 or more people cannot stand by idly, and they're subject to being moved on by the police.
You can't hang out on the green and just with 3 people?
I'm not saying. Hear me out.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
So 18.7 says that basically. Now, the reality of the situation is, Paul, there are 2 things at work here. One, is that the face we want to put on the PD? No, we don't want to.
Before we get to the pros and cons, I just want to know the law. The laws in New Haven, 3 people can't stand together in New Haven anywhere?
Right. The city ordinance, 18-7, the loitering city ordinance says any sidewalk or anything controlled by the city, any area controlled by the city, it's a public way, 3 people or more standing by idly are subject to being removed by the police in order to be removed. If you don't comply, it's a misdemeanor, $50 fine, I believe. Now, the thing is...
What if you're waiting to get into a restaurant?
Right. So here, the thing is, in Connecticut, these ordinances, like Hartford has one, Waterbury, Bridgeport, they were designed in the 90s to disrupt drug trafficking, right? But they've never been challenged in court. other states have challenged these, and they've been deemed unconstitutionally ambiguous, right? So in other words, they've been shot down. I would assume that if this was ever challenged, this would be unconstitutionally ambiguous because it's not setting forth any type of prohibited action, right? But in Connecticut, it's never been challenged, so therefore remains enforceable, right? But what happens is if it's not challenged, if it's not deemed unconstitutionally ambiguous, it encourages arbitrary enforcement by the police. That's why we usually stay away from it, right? So a drug unit, like my unit, that's the reason I know these ordinances, because the drug unit, we would use 1871, but we would do surveillance first. We would see and then once we had a foundation to
they
move
have a
into the
foundation
area.
there. There have been a lot of, I think.
No, that's not the foundation. They cannot move in there based on simply there's drug arrest. They have to meet their specific criteria they have to meet. They can't go to a place, hypothetically, let's say that place was riddled with
needles,
anything. There's been 100 reports there for the past year. That doesn't mean that today you can go in there and sweep everybody away. That means you have cause now to take a look at what's going on over there. And if you meet these criteria, move in under the authority of that ordinance, right? You simply just can't go in and grip and rip like we always talk about. You can't just do that. So I'm not sure where the federal building came about, but listen, those are, I know Jeremy Elmey's a good cop, right? There's a
He's the guy who almost got fired for sexually harassing this teenage
maybe
girl.
I'm thinking Chris Elliott. There's another Elliott.
Jeremy Elliott was going to the high school, and he's a resource officer, and following her to a job at night, trying to get home to him for a massage.
All right, so listen, so I don't know him. He's a younger guy, but I was thinking there's another Elliott that was in the task force when I was working there. Maybe I think it might have been. Yeah, I think it might have been Chris Elliott. But anyways,
people are kind of amazed that guy still has a badge.
He might be a younger guy in the job. Long story short, is all I'm saying to you is that they're not necessarily wrong. What you're seeing is kind of a breakdown between, because we all know what's going on. They're being told to keep the area clear without any further direction, right? So they're coming out and they're trying to do their job without the necessary information that they have. Now, you know me, I never had a problem holding the cops accountable. So if I, as an old man here, I'm retired 8 years now, if I could spew these ordinances out, you should be able to tell the public, right? You shouldn't, if you're an officer, you should know these ordinances, especially if you're going to act on them and you start moving people around. You should be able to explain it just the way I did. So there's where I think the real problem is. There's not enough. You're going to ask these cops to do things, but you have to educate them on what they're doing and why, right? So long story short, singular people waiting for the bus or doing anything else there? No. There has to be a group of 3 standing by idly. And then there might have been
3. I mean, there were 15 people there. A lot of them waiting for the bus. But,
right, but I mean, a group of, not 15 people not 15 singular people in a crowd. You follow me? A group of 3 people that are obviously part of a group and are standing by idly.
What if 3 friends like met for lunch and they wanted to just stay on the sidewalk and talk for 15 minutes about the Yankee game?
Trust me, I'm not telling you
no,
this is a good ordinance. I'm just saying nobody has challenged it. Once it's challenged, it will be shot down, I would believe. It would be shot down, but nobody has challenged it, so it remains, right? So we could still use it.
What about now, the other part was, like this, I kind of sympathetic to the cops because, as you say, they're under pressure to do something. They know there's bad activity. What should they have done to make things in order on that block?
Well, really what should be done here is, you got your walking beats. This is what you say. You want your walking beats, your bike patrols, when the walking beats back up. Now, you don't necessarily have to do anything. Your presence in there is enough to deter what you're trying to deter.
What about the figure 8s?
I don't really know. To be honest with you, I couldn't even comment on that. I don't know why they did that.
I
didn't
cracking
see that
up
on
by the way
video.
Ray Hassett was giving fines to people like my wife for allegedly riding on the sidewalk.
Well, the police officers can ride the bikes on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I know.
There's an exemption to that. So, but yes, I get where you're going with it. Could have been handled better by the cops. Absolutely, sure. Yeah. But are they? Do we beat up the patrol officers because they're following orders and they haven't been given enough knowledge? I tend to think not. I would want to talk to their supervisor, not necessarily them.
Yeah. I spoke to Police Chief Anthony Campbell about it. He thought they were fine. He said you're allowed to lie when you're solving a crime. Like, for instance, if you're interrogating a murder suspect, you're allowed to lie like, we have the body, or so-and-so.
I'm not sure how that
translates
translates to this. How does that translate to what they're doing?
So he's saying, I said, well, it's not a federal building, and they can't just go checking IDs, right, John? You can't just say we're going to check IDs in a crowd, can you?
I mean, listen, can you say that? Maybe. I mean, but do we want to say that? No, of course not. You're not out there as the frontline patrol officer doing an investigation to BS the public. If there are people standing there and you're an officer giving a direction to leave, you have to tell the people why you're giving them that direction.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, yes, do we do homicide investigations, and do we, in the interrogation room, do we say we have certain evidence when we don't have it? Yeah, we do. Okay, but that doesn't translate to what they're doing in the field.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Harry Jost? What do you think about that whole episode?
What happened? Everything is...
Can you hear me now? Good. So my thing, the only thing I heard is that cops could, I mean, I heard everything, but the one I want to talk about is cops could ride on sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
Cops could use their cell phones in the cars, right?
Cops can use their cell phones in the car if it's pertinent to a call, if they're receiving information from dispatch or something to that effect. But they shouldn't, they're bound by the same rules as in other words, if they're calling their wife, to talk about what's for dinner, no. No, that's not where the exemption is.
How often does a cop need to be on a cell phone? I because I see cops on the cell phone.
Yeah, I know where you're going with it. Yeah, I know where you're going with it. Listen, this is a younger generation. They're tethered to their phones. I mean,
how often do they need that, though?
They don't.
They don't.
There was an officer who hit a woman pedestrian crossing by the British Arts Center. He was on the phone, and they said he wasn't at fault because she was about a quarter of an inch to the right of the line of the walking of the crosswalk.
I don't know about.
See, that's my pet peeve with everybody who's always on their phone.
I'll tell you this: that sometimes, though, if dispatch has your number and they have, there are things that they won't. It's not something that we condone and we like them doing. But if they feel if it's sensitive information, they don't put it over there. They will text the officer as they're arriving. And that's not something we should do.
So other people can't hear it on the police.
Right. It's not something we should do because we need an official record of it, right? But it is done.
So what do you think about that whole episode, Harry? So they've had drug problems at this bus shelter. Cops come in and do figure eights, announce you're not allowed to stand here. It's a federal building, which is not. And we're going to take IDs, and then they kind of scatter people. What do you think?
See, with that is, for me, with situations like that, I go by the cop's judgment, right? If there's drug dealing going on, and they feel like they need to clear the area, I just feel you should clear the area. Right,
but that's what I'm talking about, how there is an unconstitutional aspect to that ordinance because it's arbitrary, right? If you can't listen, I'm a cop. I'm pro police. Trust me when I tell you. I love my cops. I think this New Haven PD is one of the best in the country. But you cannot arbitrarily go out there and push people from certain areas. You just can't without reason. That's all there is to it. What this is a job for the drug unit. Okay, if you're having drug problems in the bus shelter and that's what's going on, go get a coffee at Starbucks, okay, and watch it for an hour. And then when you move in, know who you're going after and take them out of there. Everybody else needs to be left alone, Harry. Be honest. Let's go. Listen, what if you're waiting for your wife over there to drop off your lunch or something, and all of a sudden the cops come in and say, look, move. Like, look, my wife doesn't know New Haven. I got to stay here for my lunch. No, you got to go. So now you're screwed. You can't eat now because some other guy 2 weeks ago overdosed in the bus shelter. I mean, come on, is that right?
No, it isn't. But and is it happening frequently? I'm just saying.
Yeah, they are doing it regularly.
They're doing it regularly
with the bike thing last week.
That's the thing.
But the store owner there, the bodega, was real happy. He said, "Now I'm not having these problems. People who are waiting for the bus in bad weather were coming to my store because they couldn't go in the bus shelter because all these druggies are in there."
Yeah, because that's another thing.
Well, the end doesn't justify the means. I get that. Okay,
I prefer to be standing at the bus stop and them telling me move over instead of having somebody overdosing at my feet.
So listen, here's the point I'm going to make about this video. And if you go back and look at it's not the figure eights, it's not the nonsense of the federal building and everything else. When questioned about what's going on here, there's a black person waiting for the bus, a black woman waiting for the bus. She doesn't think it's right what's going on. There's a white woman waiting for the bus who thinks it's fine. So now ask yourself, first of all, there's a breakdown in how the police are viewed, all right, by people of different communities.
Right.
Secondly, what does action like this do to the people who don't have trust and faith in you to begin with? It erodes it further. Is the juice worth the squeeze? In other words, is this action really necessary if that's the effect it's going to have? I say no, to be honest with you. Pass it off to your drug unit. Let your drug unit look at it.
I kind of agree, but I didn't understand the white woman, black woman thing. He's being fair, right? He's doing it to both of them.
My point is...
And I know the perception on each side.
John's point wasn't who they were doing it to, was how different people reacted.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Perception is everything. and perception, and if a white woman wasn't there, it would be racist.
No,
right?
it's not. It's not perception. It's not perception. The numbers speak to the fact that we stop more people of color, we arrest more people of color, and they view us differently, right? And if you're going to work, listen, in our city, we champion community policing. We champion that. We're not like that, right? But is that the truth?
Well, do you feel that it's necessary
I feel it's necessary to talk
to have
more.
a quota and stop
There's-
as many
there's no
white people
quotas.
as you do
There's no such thing as quotas.
black people? That's
There's
the
no
thing.
such-
But
there's
I'm
quotas.
saying, so do you go by history, the history of violence, or do what's been happening in the last 6 months, or do you go by well, maybe I should be nice because they're a certain color?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Yeah, I think you do. I think you do. I think you go out there and you have to. If you are in an urban environment, okay, a minority-driven city, which this is, if you are not cognizant of the way minority communities view the police, and you don't conduct yourself that way every day with that in the back of your mind, you're not going to do a good job here. So absolutely, if you don't go to that crowd of people, and in the back of your mind, know in your mind how the minority community feels about you before you address those people, you're not going to be successful, Harry. That's just the end of the end of the story.
Should you not care what the white person feels when you're telling them at the bus stop?
No, I didn't say that.
Move over.
I said that, but how about this? How about if I go up to this group? The white person was completely content with the explanation she got. However, the black woman wasn't. So why don't I explain myself and talk a little bit more so now everybody feels okay with what I'm doing?
There was a second cop, Derek Cohen. You see him at the end having a nice conversation with black woman there about
What's that?
You saw Derek Cohen, the other cop, having a nice
Yeah,
conversation.
listen, they're good.
with the black.
I
people
don't
at
mean
the bus
to beat
stop.
up the New
No,
England
doing what
PD.
you just said.
They are a
Yeah.
great police department. Whether you guys, not you guys in town, but whether the city itself, they don't know. This city doesn't know how lucky they are to have this police department, because this police department is tolerant. Okay, they dropped the ball. I'm not saying we all dropped the ball here and there. But if you were to go to other jurisdictions and interact with the police there, you would run back to New Haven. Trust me when I tell you.
And you would be listening, if you're in New Haven, to Dateline New Haven at WNHH FM, your home for community radio at 103.5, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. We're talking criminal justice with WNHH's criminal justice expert, John Velleca, and our other expert on all things Trump and otherwise, Harry Droz, our fearless station manager. So, John, you were weighing in. I love when you weigh in on the comments on our independent stories. There was a big, we've talked about this before, another
Like
big
to see me get
blowout
beat up.
about the Civilian Review Board. People want
Right.
an agency to watch over the cops, and the majority in the Board of Alders got a referendum passed. We have to create one with teeth rather than what already existed.
Yeah.
But then they keep coming back. It's taken them 5 years because they keep coming back with plans that have no teeth. It's what we had before with a little minor adjustment, who gets to pick them. And everyone turns out for hours and says, you can't do this. We need subpoena power.
Right.
They did that again this week. It was a rerun. A committee passed it while everyone in the crowd said don't, because there's no subpoena power. And what was interesting to me this time was the chief and the assistant chief came, and they were pretty much on the side of the crowd. They said, this is going to work only if people have faith in it.
Right.
So they're telling you do it in a way so they have faith in it. So why don't you do it in a way they have faith in it? They're saying, the lawmakers, but we keep being told we can't give subpoena power to this group. Other groups say you are being told you can. You can have, the Corporation Council said you can. You can maybe deputize someone from the Board of Alders president who has subpoena power. Or maybe you and I have always felt you should just maybe put it in the police commission because they have subpoena power. What do you think about subpoena power?
Well, I think when I commented at one point, I think it's way overrated, to be quite honest with you. I don't think, listen, everybody says they want subpoena power, but what do you want it for? You want, like I said in one of the comments, is, God forbid there's a shooting, it's questionable. Don't think for a second the CRB, because you have subpoena power, you're going to subpoena a body cam video that the police are withholding. That's not going to happen. The state's attorney is going to quash that subpoena, and you're not going to get anything. The reality is, most of the time, right? No, listen, take the cops out of the equation. The cops have to cooperate. By order of the chief, they have to cooperate with the Civilian Review Board. They can't say no. They have to. You're going to give Garrity, right? You're going to give them the Garrity warning. They're going to have to. So who are you talking about? You're talking maybe civilian people that were a witness that would not come forward otherwise?
But you think the union won't protect some cops from going before the board if they don't want
No,
to?
the union is going to say, listen, give them Garrity and he'll talk. Listen, they can't.
What does Garrity mean?
Garrity warning is essentially saying that, listen, we'll talk, we'll give a statement, but anything you use against me cannot be used in a criminal proceeding. right? So in other words, it's administrative. So if it's an administrative hearing, the chief simply orders the cop. The cop doesn't go. He's in violation. He has to go. So the union can't do anything about that. Okay? As long as you give Garrity, the union's out. They can't do anything.
But what's the point if it can't be used against them? Then there won't be any kind of repercussions.
That's how it goes in internal affairs too, right? You work in internal affairs. You have a cop shooting. They don't talk unless you give Garrity.
Then can they be brought up on charges?
No, because they could say, "Is this?" And they do. Is this an administrative investigation or this is criminal? If this is criminal, I'm not going to talk. I got my right in a criminal investigation not to talk either, right? But if it's administrative, I want Garrity, or I'm not going to talk.
Gotcha.
Right. So now you come into this whole thing. So now, what have we been saying in the detective division for years and years and years, and people have been killing us about our salvability rate? The reality is, if somebody doesn't want to cooperate, somebody come in, you could hit them with 100 subpoenas. They're not coming in. Trust me. And when they come in, they're not telling you nothing. So you can have all the subpoena power you want. If you cannot make a person want to help if they don't want to, and that's just the long and the short of it.
What do you think about CRB, Harry?
Well, I think
TCB with CRB.
I actually think John should go and explain that subpoena power to Congress, who are planning to subpoena Trump
I knew.
to
I just
death.
come back to Trump. Okay, let's bring it back to the subject. So Christian Bruckhardt does a lot of great comments too. He's an officer.
Smart
He puts
kid.
his name on it.
Smart
He's a really
kid.
smart guy. Yeah. So he pointed out the fact that a lot of the activists of this hearing, many of whom were affiliated with Yale Law School, were criticizing cops because they live out of New Haven. So they say they don't care, they don't live here, no consequences. So he writes, so help me figure this out. The cops who don't live in New Haven are bad because they're allegedly less invested in the city. Not true, by the way. And he actually lives in the city and he started business and everything. But Yale students who sequester themselves in their gated colleges where they're guarded by their own police and security then flee at the first job offer are here to help?
Yeah, well put.
Harry?
I don't know.
Okay. We solved that one. We solved that one. I actually think the solution is police commission to make it a real police commission and really make it independent and have them form the civilian review board there.
Like I wrote there, Anthony Dawson for years wanted this.
And
now
he's the
you're the
president of the
guy.
police commission,
You're the guy now. Stand up. Do what you got to do. Don't hide. We haven't heard from anybody from the police commission, right?
Yeah.
So you got subpoena powers.
But they're cozy with the police commission. They never give it. They never
Well,
question
hey,
the cops.
listen. You're going to have a CRB.
They love having their badges to ride around. I'm not saying anyone in particular, but you know what I'm talking
Listen, but hypothetically, let's say a CRB passes with subpoena power. Could you imagine the conflict between the police commission now? Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. You have a body like that, a CRB with subpoena power. Now the police commissioner is going to want to get in the game. All right. So now you have these two bodies going at it now, and in the collateral damage is Anthony Campbell trying to run the police department when everybody's the chief now, it seems like. You know what I mean?
Well, meanwhile, John Velleca, our resident criminal justice expert, Anthony Campbell's trying to run the police department as the chief when all these cops are jumping ship because they get paid $20,000 or more in suburban departments where they have less crime to deal with and they get better benefits. City New Haven's broke. Right now, we're in arbitration because it's been 2 years since this police contract. They hit a dead end and they brought it up to arbitration. Why does arbitration take so long, John?
I don't know.
It's been months and it's going to take months more. I don't know enough about it. You've been involved in it.
Yeah, I just know that it takes a long time. I don't know why.
I mean, months.
To be honest, yeah. Sometimes years. So it depends. This will, but some of them.
Why?
No idea.
Okay.
Got to be something at the state
But
level.
your
I really
solution
don't know.
was get rid of walking beats, have fewer cops, pay the cops you have there more.
No, I didn't necessarily get rid of walking beats. I said by shrinking the force, you're going to have to part with some of the.
Are there even any walking beats now? I never see walking beats anymore.
No, I mean you're down officers, so you don't have them.
But
I'm saying
we're at a level around 400 officers
right
that we were at when we had lots of walking beats when you were young on the force.
502, well, almost 500 cops.
Well, we have 400 now.
Yeah.
But when you started, there were only 400.
Yeah, there was less than 400 actually.
So then why were there able to be walking cops then, but there isn't the ability to do that now?
Well, I mean, there were walking beats then too, but I mean, don't forget the overtime was a little bit more back then. I mean, you had officers working, and we didn't have. Listen, the deployment scheme now calls for more cops than it did back then.
Why?
Because just the way things have changed, everybody's been jockeying for cops, and as time went on, look, when we started, we had walking beats, but you got to remember something. We had specific walking beats. We didn't have walking beats everywhere. We had walking beats in the areas that were, we had like
downtown, the Hill.
Right, downtown the Hill. But we had the woman that got killed at Putnam and Liberty. Remember that? When after that we got a walking beat. Kimberly Square had a walking beat. But there weren't just arbitrary walking beats stuffed everywhere. And don't forget, they were singular cop walking beats. They weren't doubled up cops. They were. I walked the beat by myself.
And why are they doubled now?
That's just a deployment scheme. That's how they put them there. The only, in certain areas there were double cops. Like Kimberly Square had 2 cops, but a lot of them were singular walking beats. And
why would that change? What's the thinking? Safety?
I don't know.
Safety?
At one point, I think. Well, listen, 9/11 changed everything. All right, everything became officer safety after 9/11. A lot of times we didn't even have walking beats. We put cops in cars. We had 2-man cars. At that point. Personally, I just don't think, and we need this many cops. That's all there is to it. The crime is low. If we're struggling to keep
some people
cops,
argue that's why the crime is low, but you would argue it's more than
that's nonsense.
It's the
that's
investigative
ridiculous.
work that got the Cody Franklins off the street.
No, maybe, but crime is going down everywhere. There's so many different theories about why, and the biggest one is the aging out of the offending demographic.
But why is it going down more here than in places like Bridgeport and Hartford?
It's only going down slightly more here. And don't forget, crime statistics are really hinge upon what you report and what you don't. All right? So look at the homicides and the shootings, the things that you can't bury, the things that you can't recode into something else.
And aren't we doing better than Hartford and Bridgeport on that?
Slightly. But everywhere is doing better. New York City is doing better than us. Right? And they're not, they don't do all the thing. They don't attribute everything to the things we attribute to.
But New York City is also getting rid of a lot of things that they would consider violations. So this way, if it's not a violation, it's not on the books.
It's not reported, and crime is down. Exactly.
But violent crime, as you say, is harder to bury.
Violent crime you cannot bury. There's no way to. There's no way to bury that. Listen, to put that. The thing is, here's if you think of it politically, if you shrink the force, and you do this, and then crime goes up, you're all done. Right?
Right.
So you're not
going
to
politically, it's going to be hard. That's why the mayor's not going to approve it.
Yeah, and listen, if I was the mayor too, I wouldn't do it either, because where's crime going to go from this point?
Because crime is cyclical. You can have...
Crime is only going one place shortly, and it's going back up. I'm not going to say it's going to skyrocket to 2011, but it's going to go up. It's low, right?
Let me ask you one thing before I let you go. It's No Shave November. Okay, so the cops are allowed, and they're into it. They grow beards, and they're all psyched to raise money for cancer research for November. Why don't we let cops shave in the first place?
No, listen, donate to cancer. I don't like the beards. I don't like the beards. I don't like the polo shirts. Beards? I don't like the baseball hats. I don't like it. It just doesn't look. They look grubby. They look scruffy. They look terrible.
I wear a beard. I don't think it's scruffy.
Well, you're not a cop.
But why should cops? I mean, I understand this idea. That's a very military model, right? That you're a soldier and you all look the exact same.
I just think they look better. That's just a personal opinion. It's got nothing to do with the military. I was never in the military. I just think it looks better. I like the traditional police jersey with the button down with the actual badge on it.
And what's the reason? Why is this important for the public?
I think it shows continuity of what you expect from your police department. When you envision what the police officer looks like, you have an envision in your head. You don't expect.
Well, we used to picture them all as male, and now they're women as well. When I picture a cop, I want a cop, and a lot of them are like this, who are smart and serious about the job and keeping people safe. I don't care if they got a beard.
Well, I do. I mean, I care if I judge a cop when they walk in the room, whether their uniform is pressed or whether it's well kept, whether they're clean shaven, whether they take care of themselves.
You're saying that paying those details show some kind of discipline and commitment.
I think so, yeah.
That's that theory. What do you think, Harry?
I agree with that. I prefer a force that's uniform, across the board.
Shine shoes, creases in your shirt.
It shows that you care.
Shows that you're right.
See, I like a cop who shows they care about what they do rather than what's on their face.
Right, sure, at the end of the day. But listen, if somebody's going to take the time to do all that and present themselves well, the chances are good that they're going to know their job pretty well, too. Right?
So you're against riding bikes through the crowd and yelling that
I'm against bicycle cops altogether.
Why?
Because I just don't believe in all that fluffy
Doesn't
BS.
it let them carry a lot of grain while also being in closer contact? And getting in good shape too.
Such a bunch of nonsense. But listen, there's good spots for walking.
Harry, there's no need for Harry today. Yeah.
And bike patrols. Mm-hmm. However, you can't cannibalize your 9/11 response because you want guys on bicycles. You can't have people waiting 3 hours for calls because half of your force is farting around on bikes and walking beats. Right? Put them in a police car. Be a cop. Come on.
And no beard.
And no beard. Get your beard, iron your uniform,
Shine
get in a police
shoes.
car, shine your shoes. Yes. Actually,
Press. Who's going to press the clothes? I guess at home with the iron, right?
Well, yeah, we all do. Sure, of course. No, not now. You don't have to because you wear a polo shirt and a baseball hat to work. But
Well, if we didn't have John Velleca, where would we be in understanding criminal justice in New Haven? Thanks so much for joining us today on Dateline New Haven. Thanks, John Velleca, the best in the business.
anytime. Thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate all the insight you give us, and also Harry Drost. Thanks for keeping the station running. And you didn't need 2 cents as much today. John was on fire.
I know.
Yeah, so I think I had a nitro shot in this coffee. Next time I'm gonna forego that.
Next time,
get
get a double because we love it. We're
Oh,
going to take it
God.
out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It'd Feel to Be Free from the group CD A Plea for Peace. Now, we know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Fly free with us all day and all night long here at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.